My son stood at the head of my own dining table, in my own house, and told me it wasn't mine anymore. "This house isn't yours anymore, Mom," he said, like he was reading a weather report. Calm, rehearsed, like he'd practiced it in the car. His wife, Vanessa, didn't even look up from her phone. My grandson, 10 years old, stared at his plate like he wished he could disappear into it. And me? I just smiled. Because 3 weeks earlier, I had sat across from a lawyer named Grace Whitfield and asked her one question: if I don't sign this, what happens? My son thought I'd signed it. He'd been telling people I'd signed it. He'd already told his boss he was handling his mother's estate transition. He'd already picked out paint colors for what he called the master suite. He had no idea that stack of papers sitting in his desk drawer was missing exactly one thing: my signature. So when he said those words, "This house isn't yours anymore," I didn't argue, I didn't cry, I didn't raise my voice. I just asked him to pass the rolls, and I let him keep talking, because the more he talked, the more rope he gave himself. You'll want to see how this ends, but to understand how a grown man could stand in his mother's kitchen and say something like that to her face, you have to go back to the spring, back before any of us knew what Vanessa was really planning. My name is Eleanor. I'm 71 years old, and until about 8 months ago, I lived a life most people would call small, and I would call peaceful. My husband Walter passed 4 years ago. Heart attack, sudden, no warning, no goodbye. One day he was fixing the gutter. The next day I was picking out a casket. After 43 years of marriage, I went from being half of something to being all of something by myself, and it took a long time to learn how to carry that weight without falling over. The house was ours. We bought it in 1987, back when the street was half built and the trees were saplings you could snap with one hand. I raised my son Daniel in that house. I potty trained him in that bathroom. I taught him to ride a bike in that driveway. Every mark on those walls had a story, and every story had Walter in it somewhere. After Walter died, Daniel started calling more, checking in, bringing his family over on Sundays. I thought foolishly that grief had made us closer. I thought losing his father had reminded him what family meant. I didn't know yet that grief also makes people vulnerable, and vulnerable people are easy to guide. Daniel married Vanessa 6 years ago. She's polished. Always has been. The kind of woman who compliments your dress and then mentions, almost as an aside, that it's brave to wear that color at your age. The kind of woman who hugs you at the door and checks the thermostat setting on her way out. For years, I told myself I was imagining things, that I was just a jealous mother who didn't want to share her son. I gave her the benefit of the doubt so many times I lost count. I don't do that anymore. It started small, the way these things always do. Small enough that if you told someone about it, they'd say you were overreacting. It was a Sunday dinner in March. Vanessa mentioned, casually, over the pot roast, that a house this size was a lot for one person to maintain. She said it with a little laugh, like it was nothing, like it was just concern. "You must rattle around in here," she said. "All these empty rooms." I said the rooms weren't empty. They were full of 40 years of my life. She smiled the way people smile when they've already decided you're wrong but don't want to argue. A few weeks later, Daniel brought up the future. Not aggressively, gently, the way you'd bring up a diagnosis you didn't want to say out loud. He talked about how houses need work, roofs need replacing, property taxes go up. He mentioned, almost in passing, that his friend's mother had gotten ahead of it by putting the house in a family trust before anything happened to her. Before anything happened to her. I remember sitting there thinking, nothing has happened to me. I'm 71, not 91. I still drive myself to the grocery store. I still mow my own lawn in the spring before my knees start complaining. I am not a problem that needs to be gotten ahead of. But I smiled and said I'd think about it, because that's what you do when your son says something with love in his voice, even if the words underneath don't quite match the tone. If you've ever had a family member start talking about your future a little too eagerly, you already know where this is going. But stay with me, because what happened next is the part almost nobody sees coming. In April, Daniel asked if he could bring someone over just to talk. A financial advisor, he said, a friend of a friend, someone who specialized in senior estate protection. His name was Curtis Hale. Mid-40s, expensive watch, a smile that never quite reached his eyes. He sat in my living room with a leather folder and talked for 40 minutes about elder financial abuse, about scams targeting widows, about how important it was to get your affairs in order while you're still sharp. While you're still sharp, as if sharpness had an expiration date he was personally monitoring. He explained that the safest thing, the smartest thing, would be to place the house into a living trust, with Daniel named as trustee. He said it would protect me from scammers. He said it would make things so much easier when the time came, so nobody would have to go through probate, so there'd be no fighting, no confusion. He made it sound like a gift I was giving my family, a final act of love. I asked him who he worked for. He said he was independent. I asked how he knew Daniel. He said they'd met through a mutual contact. I asked to see his license and his firm's registration. He hesitated. Just a flicker. But I've been alive 71 years, and I know what a flicker like that means. I said I'd need time to review everything with my own attorney before signing anything. Vanessa's smile tightened just slightly at the corners, so slightly that if you weren't watching for it, you'd miss it entirely. Daniel said, "Of course, take your time, no rush at all." But there was a rush. I could feel it in the room, like a change in air pressure before a storm. That night, after they left, I found the folder Curtis had left for my records. I sat at my kitchen table, the same table Walter and I bought at a flea market in 1991, and I read every page. Buried on page 14, in language designed to be skimmed past, was a clause naming Daniel as trustee, with what the document called full discretionary authority, effective immediately upon signing. Not upon my death, not upon incapacity, immediately. That meant the moment I signed, my son could sell my house without asking me, without telling me. The house Walter and I built our whole life inside of would legally belong to a trust that I no longer controlled. I didn't sleep that night, but I also didn't panic. I did something else instead. I called Grace Whitfield. Grace had handled Walter's estate after he passed. She was sharp, unsentimental, and had exactly zero patience for people who tried to rush elderly clients into signing things. I brought her the folder. She read it in silence for almost 10 minutes while I sat there with my hands wrapped around a cup of coffee that had gone cold. When she finally looked up, she said, "Eleanor, I need you to understand something. This isn't an estate planning document. This is a transfer of control disguised as one." She explained it slowly, like she wanted every word to land. The trust structure gave Daniel immediate authority over the property. Not future authority, immediate. If I signed it, I would still be living in the house, but I would no longer legally control it. My son could refinance it, sell it, or borrow against it, and I would have no legal recourse to stop him. "Has he asked you to sign anything yet?" she asked. "Not yet," I said. He said there's no rush. Grace's expression didn't change, but something in her eyes did. In my experience, she said, when someone tells an elderly parent there's no rush, that usually means the rush is coming. She was right. 2 days later, Daniel called and said Curtis had found a really good window with a notary who could come to the house that Friday. He said it like he was doing me a favor, saving me a trip. He said Vanessa had already cleared her schedule to be there, for support, as if I needed cheerleaders to sign away my own home. I told Grace everything, and Grace gave me a piece of advice I will never forget as long as I live. Don't refuse, she said. Don't fight them yet. Let them believe it's happening. Delay isn't lying, Eleanor. Sometimes delay is the only weapon a person in your position has. So that's exactly what I did. Friday came. Daniel arrived with Vanessa, Curtis, and a notary I'd never met. A tired-looking man named Phil, who clearly did this kind of appointment 3 times a day and had stopped asking questions a long time ago. They spread the papers across my kitchen table. Curtis walked me through the pages again, faster this time, using phrases like, "as we discussed," and "just a formality now," the language of a man trying to create momentum instead of clarity. I asked questions. I asked them slowly, the way you do when you want someone to think you're just a confused old woman trying to keep up, rather than someone quietly documenting every answer. So if I sign this today, when does Daniel's authority begin? Curtis said, right away, but that's just a technicality. And if I ever wanted to sell the house myself, I'd need Daniel's permission? Vanessa jumped in before Curtis could answer. Eleanor, it's not about permission, it's about protection. You'll always live here. Nothing changes for you. Nothing changes for you. That phrase would come back to haunt her, though she didn't know it yet. I picked up the pen. I let it hover over the signature line for a long moment, long enough that I saw Vanessa's shoulders relax, long enough that I saw the small, satisfied smile she gave Daniel across the table, the one she thought I couldn't see. Then I set the pen down. I want to have my own attorney review the final version one more time, I said, just to be thorough. I'm sure you understand. This is a big decision. The silence that followed was the loudest silence I have ever heard in my life. Daniel's jaw tightened. Curtis's smile flickered again, that same flicker from the first meeting. Vanessa said too quickly, "Of course, Eleanor, whatever you're comfortable with." But her voice had lost its warmth entirely. They left that day without a signature, and I have never seen 4 adults pack up a stack of papers so fast in my life. Here is where it gets interesting. Here is the part of the story that, if this were a movie, would be the moment the music shifts. Because after that day, something strange happened. Daniel stopped mentioning the trust, stopped bringing up the future, started acting in every conversation as though the matter was already settled. I didn't understand it at first. Then, 3 weeks later, I overheard something I was never supposed to hear. I'd stopped by Daniel's house to drop off a birthday gift for my grandson. The front door was unlocked, and I let myself in the way I always had. This was still my son's house, after all. Still a place I believed I was welcome in without knocking like a stranger. Vanessa was on the phone in the kitchen, and she didn't hear me come in. "No, it's basically done," she was saying. "Curtis said the notary filed it as a courtesy signature. I mean, technically she needs to sign the final copy, but he already submitted the preliminary paperwork with Daniel listed as trustee. The county doesn't cross-check right away. By the time anyone notices, it'll already be recorded." My stomach turned to ice. She kept talking. "Once it's recorded, it doesn't matter what she signs after. We just tell her it's a formality. Daniel already talked to a realtor about listing values in the neighborhood, just so we know what we're working with once she's, once we move her somewhere smaller. I stood in my son's hallway, holding a birthday present wrapped in cartoon dinosaurs, and I listened to my daughter-in-law describe, in a calm and businesslike voice, a plan to take my home before I'd even agreed to give it, and then relocate me somewhere convenient for them once the paperwork existed. I didn't confront her that day. I didn't trust my voice not to shake, and I didn't want her to know what I'd heard. I set the gift on the entry table, quietly, and I left. Then I called Grace Whitfield again, and this time, my hands actually were shaking. Grace pulled county records that same week. What she found confirmed the worst part of what I'd overheard, and also revealed something Vanessa clearly hadn't planned on. Curtis Hale had, in fact, submitted a preliminary filing, a request to record a change in trustee status on the property. But because I had never signed the final notarized document, the filing had no legal weight. It existed as an unverified request, sitting in a queue, waiting on a signature that would never come, because I was never going to give it. But here's the detail that mattered most. Grace discovered that Curtis Hale was not, in fact, an independent financial advisor. He was not licensed as an estate planner in our state. He held an expired real estate license from 11 years earlier and had, according to public records, been named in 2 prior civil complaints. One from an elderly client's family alleging exactly this kind of premature trustee filing, on a house that had, in that case, actually been sold before the family caught it. Vanessa hadn't found some legitimate advisor to help protect the family's assets. She had found a man with a documented history of pushing vulnerable homeowners into signing away control of their properties, and she had brought him into my home, called him a friend of a friend, and let him sit across from me at my own kitchen table, telling me he wanted to protect me from scammers. She'd hired a scammer to protect me from scammers. The irony would almost be funny if it weren't so cruel. Grace filed a formal notice with the county revoking any pending authority tied to the preliminary submission and flagged the filing for review given Curtis's history. She also helped me do something I hadn't considered until that moment. She helped me set up my own irrevocable trust, one where I remained the sole trustee for the rest of my life, with the house passing directly to my grandson upon my death, held in a protected structure that could not be touched, sold, or refinanced by anyone but me while I was alive. Not Daniel, not Vanessa, no one. I signed that document myself, in Grace's office, with an independent witness who had never met a single member of my family. It was done in 11 days, and nobody in my son's house knew a thing about it. Which brings us back to that night, the one I told you about at the very beginning. Daniel had asked to come over for dinner, just the 4 of us and the kids. I said yes, because I wanted to see, with my own eyes, how far this had gone. Dinner started normally enough, small talk, my grandson telling me about his science project. Then, somewhere between the salad and the main course, Daniel set down his fork and looked at me with an expression I recognized, the same rehearsed calm Curtis had used in our first meeting. "Mom, I think it's time we talk seriously about the transition," he said. "The transition," I repeated. "The trust. I know you had some questions before, but Curtis said everything's basically in place now. We just need to finalize a few things. Honestly, Mom, it's already mostly done on paper. We should just make it official, so there's no confusion for anyone." I set my own fork down. "Already mostly done on paper," I repeated. "What does that mean exactly?" Vanessa answered for him, smooth as ever. "It just means the preliminary work is complete. There's really nothing left to decide, Eleanor. It's simpler this way. And that's when Daniel said it. The line that started this whole story. This house isn't yours anymore, Mom. Not really. Not on paper. We're just waiting on you to sign the last piece so everything matches up. He said it gently. He probably even believed, in that moment, that he was being kind, helping his aging mother accept a transition that had already happened, sparing her the stress of thinking there was still a decision to make. He had no idea there was no filing left to complete. No idea the preliminary work had been flagged and frozen by the county 3 weeks earlier. No idea that the house he was describing as no longer mine had, in fact, been placed into a trust I alone controlled, protected in a way even his lawyer friend's tricks could never touch. I looked at my son. I looked at his wife. I looked at my grandson, who had gone very still, sensing, the way children always sense these things, that something important and uncomfortable was happening above his head. And then I asked Daniel to pass the rolls. He blinked. What? The rolls, I said. Please. He passed them, confused, because that was not the reaction he had planned for. I let him keep talking for another few minutes. I let him explain, again, how simple everything would be. I let Vanessa add her own reassurances about how nothing would really change for me. I wanted to hear every version of the story they were prepared to tell. Then I set down my napkin and asked a question. Daniel, when exactly did Curtis file that paperwork with the county? He hesitated. I don't know the exact date. Back in April, I think. Why does that matter? Because, I said, the county rejected it. Weeks ago. There's nothing to finalize, because there was never anything filed correctly in the first place. His face changed slowly, the way faces do when a sentence takes a moment to fully land. What are you talking about? I reached into my bag and pulled out a folder of my own. Not Curtis's folder, mine. Grace's letterhead across the top. Curtis Hale isn't licensed in this state, I said. He has an expired real estate license and 2 prior complaints against him for pushing elderly homeowners into signing over control of their property. One of those homeowners actually lost her house before her family caught what was happening. Vanessa's face had gone pale, the practiced warmth completely drained out of it. I also want you to know, I continued, that I heard you on the phone in your kitchen 3 weeks ago. I heard you say the notary filed it as a courtesy before I'd signed anything. I heard you say that once it was recorded, it wouldn't matter what I agreed to after. And I heard you talk about moving me somewhere smaller once you were, in your words, working with it. The silence at that table was different from the silence weeks earlier at my kitchen table. That silence had been tactical, calculated, a pause before a performance. This silence was the sound of a plan collapsing in real time. Daniel looked at his wife. Vanessa, what is she talking about? Vanessa didn't answer. She was staring at me the way you stare at someone you've badly underestimated. I kept going, because I wasn't finished. So no, Daniel, you're wrong. This house is mine. It's more mine now than it's ever been, actually, because 2 weeks ago I placed it into an irrevocable trust of my own, with my own attorney, witnessed independently, with full legal protection against exactly this kind of situation. I control that trust for the rest of my life. Not you, not Curtis, not anyone sitting at this table but me. You did what? Daniel's voice cracked, somewhere between disbelief and panic. I protected myself, I said, from strangers your wife brought into my home, from a scheme that would have taken my house without my knowledge, and then decided where I was allowed to live afterward. I protected myself the same way any competent adult would, once she realized her family was trying to take something from her, instead of caring for her. Daniel turned to Vanessa. "Is any of this true?" She tried for a moment to reframe it. "Eleanor, you're twisting things. We were trying to help you. Curtis came recommended. I didn't know about his history. You knew enough to tell someone on the phone that the filing would go through before I signed anything," I said quietly. "You knew enough to talk about moving me out once the paperwork existed. That's not confusion, Vanessa. That's a plan." My grandson had gone very quiet, looking between his parents with the wide, careful eyes of a child trying to understand an adult argument he wasn't supposed to be witnessing. I felt for him in that moment more than anyone else at that table. None of this was his doing. Daniel put his head in his hands. When he looked up, the rehearsed calm was completely gone, replaced by something rawer, shame maybe, or the beginning of it. "Mom, I swear I didn't know about the phone call. I didn't know he wasn't licensed. I thought Vanessa said he came from a friend at her office, someone who'd used him before." "Did you ever once ask to see his credentials yourself?" I asked. "Did you ever once wonder why there was such a rush? Why there was never any time to simply let me think, or let my own lawyer review things at my own pace?" He didn't answer, because there wasn't an answer that didn't make him look complicit, either through malice or through willful blindness. And honestly, at 71 years old, I've learned that the difference between those two things matters a lot less than people think it does. Either way, my son sat in a room and let a stranger tell his mother her home wasn't really hers anymore. Either way, he said the words himself, at my own table, believing them to be true. "I need you to leave," I said. Not shouted, not cried, just said, the way you'd state any simple fact. "Mom." "Not forever," I said, because it was true, and because despite everything, he is still my son, and some part of a mother never fully closes that door. But tonight, yes. I need you to leave tonight. I need time, and I need you to understand that whatever happens between us going forward, this house is not a bargaining chip. It was never yours to plan around. It was never yours to assume." They left. My grandson hugged me at the door, tighter than usual, and whispered, "I didn't know, Grandma," and I told him I knew he didn't, because he's 10 years old, and none of this was ever his to carry. The weeks that followed were quiet, in a way that felt less like peace, and more like the stillness after a storm has passed, but before you've assessed the damage. Daniel called twice. The first time I let it go to voicemail. The second time I answered, and he apologized. Not perfectly, not completely, but honestly, in a way that sounded less rehearsed than anything he'd said at that dinner table. He told me he'd confronted Vanessa. He told me things about their finances I won't repeat here, except to say that the push to control my house wasn't only about protecting me. It was about a financial pressure Vanessa had been hiding from him for over a year, one that a house sale could have conveniently solved. I don't know yet how things will resolve between them. That's not really my story to tell. What I do know is this. Curtis Hale's filing was formally rejected and referred to the state licensing board, thanks to Grace's persistence. His name now sits attached to a third complaint, not just two. I don't know if that will stop him from doing this to some other family, some other frightened widow sitting at her kitchen table being told, gently, that signing something is the smart thing to do, the loving thing to do, the thing a good mother does for her children. But I know it stopped him from doing it to me. I think about that dinner often, about the moment Daniel looked me in the eye and told me my own house wasn't mine anymore, with such calm certainty that I almost felt the ground shift under the words, the way you do when someone says something with enough confidence that your own memory starts to doubt itself. That's the part I want you to remember. if you take nothing else from this story, confidence is not the same thing as truth. The people who try to take things from us, whether it's a house, a voice, a sense of our own worth, they rarely announce themselves as villains. They come with paperwork. They come with reassurance. They come with phrases like, "It's simpler this way," and "nothing really changes for you." And they count on us being too tired, too trusting, or too afraid of conflict to ask the one question that unravels everything. If I don't sign this, what happens? I am 71 years old, and I learned that a signature is one of the last true pieces of power a person holds onto in this life. Not because a piece of paper has magic in it, but because the moment before you sign it is the only moment where the choice is completely, entirely yours. Once the pen touches the page, the choice belongs to someone else. I didn't lose my house that spring. I almost gave it away, gently, politely, over pot roast and reassurances, because I loved my son and wanted to believe he only had my best interests at heart. But I paused. I asked a question. I called a lawyer instead of a moving company. And that pause, that single quiet pause, was the difference between losing everything I built with Walter and keeping every last brick of it, on my own terms, for as long as I live. If you are watching this, and something in your own family has started to feel like a rush toward a signature you're not sure about, I want you to hear this clearly. You are allowed to slow down. You are allowed to ask for time. You are allowed to bring in your own lawyer, even if it makes a dinner table uncomfortable for one night. An uncomfortable dinner is a small price to pay for a house, a name, a legacy that stays exactly where it belongs, with you. My son and I are still finding our way back to each other. It's slow. Some days it feels like we might get there. Other days, I still see Vanessa's face across that table, still pale, still caught, and I wonder how many other mothers out there are sitting across from someone just like her right now, being told, gently, that it's simpler this way. If this story meant something to you, if it reminded you of your own kitchen table, your own pause before a signature, your own quiet strength you didn't know you still had, tell me in the comments. I read every single one. And if you want to hear more stories like mine, stories about the women who were told they were finished and decided otherwise, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Because the house was never really the point. The point was that nobody, not even the people we love the most, gets to decide who we are before we've had the chance to decide it ourselves.